How to fix Valorant stuck on loading screen. Welcome back to Teknobalta. During our recent investigations, we discovered a severe issue where Valorant gets completely stuck on the loading screen with an infinitely spinning cursor. Our testing showed that standard software reloads often fail here, leaving players stranded outside the game. We have analyzed the core engine behavior and compiled the ultimate diagnostic guide to bypass this loading sequence freeze. Solution 1. Restarting and reconfiguring the VGC service. Teknobalta's analysis revealed that the Riot Vanguard service, known as VGC, often fails to initialize correctly during the boot sequence. We tested this fix by opening the Windows Services app, locating VGC, and changing its startup type to automatic. After applying this setting and rebooting, the client successfully bypassed the initial loading hang. Solution 2. Complete Vanguard reinstallation. During our deep diagnostics, we confirmed that corrupted Vanguard anti-cheat files directly cause the loading bar to freeze permanently. We found that manually uninstalling Vanguard from the control panel and deleting its leftover folder clears the corruption. Launching the Riot client to force a fresh Vanguard installation completely resolves this specific anti-cheat conflict. Solution 3. Flushing DNS and resetting network adapters. Our network diagnostics showed that misconfigured local DNS caches prevent the game client from successfully shaking hands with authentication servers. By opening the command prompt as an administrator and executing a standard DNS flush command, we cleared these blocked routes. We confirmed that this quick network reset immediately allows the loading screen to transition into the main menu. Solution 4. Assigning public DNS servers. We investigated backend routing protocols and noticed that default provider servers often struggle with the regional login domains. Teknobalta's network team switched the adapter settings to use globally recognized public servers for better stability. This stabilization of the routing path completely eliminated the infinite loading loop during our test runs. Solution 5. Disabling full-screen optimizations. Windows attempts to force specific visual optimizations onto the executable, which our testing proved can heavily conflict with the game engine. We navigated to the main game properties and checked the box to disable these specific optimizations. Applying this configuration override instantly stopped the client from freezing right before the main menu rendering phase. Solution 6. Forcing administrator privileges. The client requires elevated system permissions to read necessary configuration files during the startup sequence. We modified the primary executables to permanently run as an administrator through the Compatibility tab. This ensures the game has unrestricted access to system memory, bypassing the permission denial that halts the loading bar. Solution 7. Configuring Windows Defender Firewall allowances. Our security analysis confirmed that strict local firewall rules frequently block the initial packets sent by the game engine. We accessed the Defender Firewall settings and manually added both the game executable and Vanguard to the allowed applications list. Once the traffic was unblocked, the client transitioned smoothly through the previously stuck loading phase. Solution 8. Purging the app data configuration folder. Local configuration files stored in the hidden directory often become corrupted after minor client patches, leading to severe rendering halts. Our team navigated to the local saved folder and deleted the entire configuration directory to force a factory reset of user settings. Upon relaunching, the game generated fresh configuration data and successfully loaded into the lobby. Solution 9. Disabling background overlay software. Teknobalta's performance monitoring revealed that third-party overlays aggressively inject hooks into the game process, stalling the initialization. We systematically disabled applications featuring built-in overlays, which immediately stopped the software conflict. Removing these injection attempts allows the engine to allocate resources properly without hanging on the loading screen. Solution 10. Running System File Checker Diagnostics. Corrupted core Windows files can prevent essential game dependencies from loading into the system memory. We utilized the command prompt to run a comprehensive system file checker scan, which identified and repaired several broken system libraries. Following the automated repair process, the game client booted up without any loading screen hesitation. Solution 11. Updating system graphics drivers. Outdated graphics firmware severely impacts how the game engine renders the initial environment during the loading phase. Our hardware team deployed the latest certified driver packages using clean installation protocols to wipe older conflicting registry entries. This display update instantly stabilized the rendering pipeline, pushing the game past the frozen load screen. Solution 12. Executing a clean boot environment. Various background services heavily compete for processor priority, while the game attempts to unpack its asset bundles into memory. We utilized the system configuration utility to disable all unnecessary startup services, creating an isolated boot environment. In this clean state, the game successfully allocated all necessary system resources and loaded flawlessly. Solution 13. Disabling IPv6 network protocols. Our packet analysis showed that the game client occasionally attempts to route login traffic through unstable network channels. We accessed the network adapter properties and completely unchecked the secondary Internet Protocol option to force standard routing. This forced protocol shift eliminated the specific packet loss that causes the loading bar to stall. Solution 14. Updating the motherboard BIOS. Deep system profiling indicated that outdated motherboard firmware can mismanage memory allocation during heavy application startups. Teknobalta flashed the latest stable firmware version to our test bench, optimizing the hardware-level communication. This foundational hardware update permanently cured the system-level freezing we observed during the game's startup sequence. Solution 15. Enabling secure boot and TPM firmware. Modern anti-cheat requirements strictly mandate advanced hardware security features to validate the boot environment before allowing game access. We entered the motherboard settings to verify and activate both secure boot and the trusted platform module architecture. Meeting these strict hardware compliance protocols immediately resolved the validation block that freezes the client. Solution 16. Adjusting virtual memory paging files. When physical memory is heavily utilized, Windows relies on virtual paging files, which will crash the loading sequence if improperly managed. We manually reassign the system paging file size to match the recommended parameters for high-performance applications. Optimizing this data swap space provided the necessary overhead to load the game assets without crashing. Solution 17. Relocating the game to a solid-state drive. Mechanical hard drives often suffer from severe latency when streaming thousands of small asset files required by modern competitive shooters. We migrated the entire game directory to a high-speed solid-state drive, drastically reducing the storage bottleneck. The superior read speeds ensured the game engine unpacked all required files fast enough to avoid timing out on the load screen. Solution 18. Rebuilding the Windows Management Instrumentation Repository. This core repository handles crucial system data tracking, and its corruption directly interferes with the anti-cheat verification process. We executed administrative commands to pause the service, reset the repository files, and rebuild the database from scratch. This complex system repair fully restored communication between the operating system and the game client. Solution 19. Performing a total clean Windows installation. After exhausting all localized software repairs, we determined that deeply rooted operating system registry corruption was entirely blocking the client launch. We performed a total clean format of the primary drive and installed a fresh, updated version of Windows. Our final testing confirmed that this ultimate system wipe guarantees a flawless, uninterrupted game loading experience. Don't forget to follow Teknobalta for more.